Hello Hair Tools users! Welcome to Let's Make This Hairstyle Episode 2. We will be making this fun side braid hairstyle in custom scalp. Please note, the scalp texture under the braids was created in Substance Painter due to not getting good results using particle hair. You may also be able to achieve this look using Blender's texture painting. Let's get started. So first we're going to import our character or head into Blender. Now go to the hair tool pane, go to the library. I'll be choosing the long-haired version here, and I'm going to be shortening it later. Click Append. Alright, now you can go ahead and reposition the grid and delete the curves. Now I'm just going to make sure that the grid is really close to the scalp. We definitely don't want it to intersect though. I'm going to select edge loops right here, and then I'm going to do an edge split because I want this other half here deleted since that's where the braids are going to be. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and select edge loops on the bottom of the hair, and I'm going to do Control plus on the keyboard until I get up to about the length that I'd like, and then I'll delete vertices. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and delete the sharp edge and just mark it again. Alright, now we're going to go into object mode. You're going to select your grid, go to hair operations under the hair tool pane, and click on curves from grid surface. I'm going to add a different hair texture, the one that I used in episode 2 of one of my tutorial series, so I'm going to go under the shading settings and change out the textures. Once I have my textures updated, I'm going to go back into UV editing and update the UV layout. Now I'm going to assign 0 and 0 mirrored. I'm actually going to decide to go back into curves from grid surface so I can change some of the settings around. Now I'm going to manually adjust some of the curves just to get them in the right place. Now it's time to make my side braids. In order to do that, I'm going to create a grid from my head mesh by selecting the faces and separating the selection. If your head doesn't have quads like this, you may need to create a grid from scratch. I'll be going over how to create a grid from scratch in another episode. Now I'm just going to select these edges and extrude them down. This is where the braid tips are going to go. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark these edges as sharp. I'm going to generate curves from grid surface here. I'm going to make a few adjustments over on the settings. Once I like the position of the curves, I'm going to click on Generate Braids under Hair Operators. Before I move on, I'm going to organize some of these files and put them in their own groups. The roots are really transparent, so I'm actually going to select a different part of this hair texture for the UV, specifically for the braids. Now we can assign the new hair texture to the braids. It's still a little transparent at the root. To fix that, I can change the root offset of the UV. So first we need to move this one out of the way. And now, if you hover over this one and press Shift and use your scroll wheel, you can change the offset to go up towards the root. Now we need to set the UV region for the rest of the braids. I want to change the look of the braid. I should have done this before assigning the UV because I'll have to go back and reassign it after anyway. Click on your braid, not the braid deformer. Now go to the hair tool pane and click on Update Braid. Now you can make some adjustments. I'm going to turn up the frequency so the braid is tighter. Okay, I think that looks good. Now I need to reassign the UV. I need to move the braid up a little bit because it's intersecting into the head. In order to do that, we need to apply the modifier to the braid. One thing you may need to do is rotate the braid if it ends up sitting a bit sideways, like some of mine on the end. There's a special way of doing this, and here are the steps. This can only be done before you apply the braid modifier. Select the braid, not the deformer, set the origin to geometry, press R plus Z to rotate on the Z axis, and now you can rotate the braid so it sits flat onto the head. Again, this has to be done before applying the braid modifier. Once the modifier is applied, rotating is going to give you very different results. So now it's time to apply the modifier. Once the modifier is applied, you can click on your braid, go into edit mode, turn on proportional editing, connect it as false, and now we can move the vertices up and away from the head. I also want to add a taper to the roots. Go to Select, Roots, and now use your Alt-S on your keyboard and add a taper. Now we need to do this to the rest of the braids as well. Here are the steps. You're going to click on your braid, not the deformer, go to the hair tool pane, then to Update Braid. Make your adjustments. Reassign your UV. Apply the braid modifier. Go into edit mode with your proportional editing turned on and connected set as false. Adjust your braid so it's not intersecting into the head. Select the roots and use Alt-S to add a taper. You can pause the video that displays the steps if you would like. Now I'm going to speed through the rest of the braids. Alright, once your braids are done, now we need to create the braid tips. To do this, I'm going to bring in a grid. I'm going to scale it down and rotate it so it's right below the braid ends. I'm going to extrude the bottom edges down so this grid is the same length as my side hair. I'm going to create edge loops every 2 squares, and then I'm going to split the edge so that I can split up this plane to create some randomness. Let's go ahead and mark the roots edges as sharp. Randomize the plane. Now we can generate our curves. Make some adjustments until you get what you're looking for. Since we don't want the roots to have any transparency, we'll be adding a new UV to the texture that will not contain any of the root. Now I'm going to assign the new UV I just created. I also need to adjust the roots to match the tip of the braid. I'm going to scale the hair just a little bit. Now I'm going to just make some subtle adjustments to the curves. And now I'm also going to make some adjustments to the side hair. Okay, now I'm going to create layer 2. I'm going to rename these to keep things organized. Gotta be sure to uninstance the profile. And I'm going to be using the hair straighten button to bring the hair up over the first layer. It appears the hair straighten button only works if you select all the vertices. And I'm going to adjust the vertices. Now I'm going to set my UV region. I'll then be editing the profile and duplicating the bevel curve to create the volume. And now I need to taper the roots so we can get rid of that floating root effect. My roots are supposed to be black, so I'm going to go ahead and edit some of the shader settings. It appears the metallic specular color is this brownish red. I'm going to change that to black. Okay, it's time to make layer number 3, our final last layer. Don't forget to uninstance the profile. Now we're going to go in edit mode and adjust our curves so that they're not intersecting the layer below. Now I'm going to go in edit mode and select all my curves, and then I'm going to use the hair straighten tool again so that I can lift the hair up over the bottom layer. I'm going to make some final adjustments to the curves because it does look like a few are still intersecting on the bottom there. And now we're going to assign our UVs. I'm going to make just a few more minor adjustments. Now I'm going to make a couple more layers for the braid tips. I'm going to follow the normal process, but this time I'm not going to be editing the curve profile. Now I'm going to make a custom scalp. I'll speed through this process, however, I have a scalp tutorial that I can link in the description. When it comes to creating the hair texture for the scalp under the braids, I first attempted to use particle hair, and unfortunately I could not get it to work for what I was going for. In the end, I ended up using Substance Painter. I apologize if you don't have Substance Painter and can't follow along for this part. You can get a free trial, and Photoshop does have a 3D modeling import with 3D painting as well. You can find tutorials for both on YouTube. In Substance Painter, I just found a hairbrush and painted where the braids are in black. I created a transparent material to use on the scalp so I can export a PNG with a transparent background, because I'll be putting this texture over another one I have that I'll be using for the scalp under the side hair. I feel like it's a little bit too transparent, so I'm going to duplicate it a few times until I like the opacity. And now I have to invert the colors since we want white to be where the hair is and black to be transparent. I'm gonna darken it up just a bit more because it's still just a little bit too transparent for me. Now I'm going to bring my texture into Blender to see how it looks. It looks okay. I do end up making some more adjustments later on before the end of the video. Now we need to add the other side of the scalp. In order to make sure it lines up to the UV, I'm going to have to import the picture of the UV into my scene. It actually lines up pretty nicely. I don't think I really have to make any adjustments to the size. Basically, I just brought the new texture over and applied it to the top of the scalp mesh I used on a previous hairstyle. I did some masking and a few adjustments until I got what I was going for. Alright, now let's see what it looks like in Blender. I don't like the texture near the roots on the scalp. I'm going to do some adjustments next to the texture in Photoshop quick. Okay, I think we're done. I'm going to finalize the hair and bring it over into Character Creator to see how it looks and add some dynamics as well. Okay, the hair is all set up in Character Creator now, and here is a neat silver color that I created. And we got a purple. I really like the purple. I got the black hair color. And we got blonde. I brought the scalp back into Photoshop and I added some more transparency in between the braids. Alright, that is the end of the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time!